Welcome. I'm Kate Piat-Eckert, Executive Director of Steep Theater Company and Board Chair of the Edgewater Chamber of Commerce. Today I'm speaking with a panel of women who represent 6 of the many theater companies in Edgewater to discuss how their work has changed this year in order to keep creating art and moving their organizations forward. I'll ask each of our panelists to introduce themselves and their organizations, and then we'll learn more about their work over the past year. Rinska, why don't you kick us off?
Hello, my name is Renska Carrasco, and I am with Red Twist Theater Company. And what I do there is I am the Red Twist, part of the Red Twist accountability team.
Hi, I'm Julianne Eyre. I'm the director of Pivot Arts.
Hi, I'm Marky Gray. I'm the managing director of Raven Theater Company.
I am Tara Mallon, and I am the founder and artistic director at Rivendell Theater Ensemble.
My name is Ann Phillips. I'm the owner and managing director of the Edge Theater.
And I'm Lisa Troy Thomas. I am the access coordinator and house and programming manager for Steep Theater.
Brilliant. Thank you all so much for joining us today. So much has changed for the world at large, and certainly for theaters when COVID became a reality last winter. I know my day-to-day is a whole lot different than it was last year. Could you tell me a little bit about what your day-to-day work looked like last February compared to what it looks like now? Why don't we start with Lisa Troy?
Yes, so my day-to-day is very, very different. Usually pre-COVID, I was working in the theater usually Thursday through Monday nights. We would have shows Thursday through Sunday, and then we had a boxcar space, which was our bar lounge area, and we were doing programming in there on Sunday and Monday nights. So I was really very hands-on. I did most of the front of house and a lot of the coordinating for performers in our boxcar space. So I was there most days, just in and out, making sure that the train keeps running. But now that I am at home pretty much 24/7, a lot of my life has become Zoom videos, which is fine. I look really good from the shoulders up. But it's giving me a lot of time to kind of work on like new projects, such as we've done a couple of projects to reach out to our community and subscribers and things like that. So it's given me some time to kind of work on some more creative projects. And as well, I do the access work for Steep. So I've gotten into some coding through that. So it's also given me a chance to work more on the administrative side, do some of our website updates and just things of that nature. So it's different, but still very rewarding. So yeah.
Thank you. Anne, what have you been up to?
Well, things have changed a lot. In 2019, we were very booked. We spent a lot of time getting people in and out of the space, doing maintenance, contract discussions, tracking payments, security deposit returns, all those kinds of things. We also had a bar space, so we made lots of runs to Restaurant Depot to get all this stuff for that. And since a year ago, things have been so super quiet. We've had ongoing discussions with our renters as people have canceled, not knowing when this was going to end. There was a lot of uncertainty about what was going on. And so we spent quite a bit of time talking to folks and reassuring them that they would get their deposits back and trying to keep them on the books as long as we could in case things did improve. They knew they would have a slot with us. So we've kind of gone through ebbs and flows of interest and curiosity about what's happening. We've had a few rentals for things like filming for fundraisers and stuff like that. People have been able to use our space, but other than that, it's been really quiet. We've started to get some more people though interested for fall and January 2022. So those things are picking up a little bit, and we're definitely looking forward to coming up with some options for folks in socially distant setups and things like that. And I do feel like more people feel like they've got a handle on how to interact with each other in a little bit more space. So we're hoping that we can facilitate that for some people too.
It's so good to hear that there's some theatrical light at the end of the tunnel. That is great. Thank you. Has anyone either created or attended, seen, experienced any virtual theater over the past year that has excited or inspired you? Rinska, I'm seeing some nodding. Why don't we start with you?
I want to preface by saying that it's exciting because in this time where we don't get to do art in the way that we traditionally know as theater practitioners, it's exciting. But it is definitely very different. I got the privilege to direct a reading and be in several as well. And it's just odd. It's weird to not have like the laughter come back, to have like just the ambiance and the noise. But it's made me more excited to appreciate the process even more for when when we can safely come back. And that I think I'm going to have a different level of gratitude when we get to that level, which is exciting for me at least.
Marky, what have you experienced?
Yeah, I really loved the Free Street Theater's youth ensemble's production of Wasted, which was a devised piece that they did over the summer. And what I really found interesting about it was that they managed to get the closest to sort of that live experience of being in a room with people that I've sort of seen, where there was a chat that was going the whole time through the performance, and there were pauses where they would give prompts and people would give answers. I felt that communal feeling just a little bit more than I have in other sort of recorded things that I've seen. And it was also, just so beautiful to see this Chicago story told by Chicago youth. And so that was really fun and innovative to see.
So it's wonderful to hear all of the work that's happening out in the world. And I don't get to experience all of it, but it does. Knowing that it's happening gives me a great hope and joy for the future of our field. So thank you for sharing.
I do want to add something really quick to just what you were saying. The cool thing about now is that we can pre-record something and actually watch our work, which as theater practitioners, I feel like we don't typically get that experience unless someone's recording a show that we're doing or whatnot, but it's just not the same. But knowing that ahead of time that we're recording something, that is a really cool thing to tap into. I know I got to work on a love story from Bull with Paramount, and we got to record it, and then they did it black and white. So It's really interesting to see the new level of creativity that we're coming out with this, to try to blend like what is film, what is theater into one thing. So I just wanted to go off of what y'all were saying, because that is like super exciting to get to see the work.
Absolutely. Yeah, performers so rarely get to see themselves in that context. It's also a great way to explore theaters that might be hard to get to from where you live or far away. It's a really exciting opportunity to expand our network of theaters that we can attend. I know the League of Chicago Theaters has their annual theater week coming up, and it's really focused on discovering theaters all over the city that you might not otherwise have found, because now you can do it without leaving home. So there are opportunities and silver linings in all of this, to be sure. Have your theaters found new ways to stay in touch with your audiences or be of service to your communities this year? Tara, what have you been up to?
Well, I just want to add in to the previous conversation to start off with, is one of the things that early on in the pandemic we were really missing was the opportunity to actually interact with audiences. And I was really missing, standing in the lobby as the audience is coming in, and standing in the lobby as the audience is coming out, and talking to people and hearing their responses. I think Rinska said, you don't hear anybody. And I think early on in the pandemic, I was able to see a project called Just Cause, which is done by the folks who do the defamation experience. And it's a play, is the first half. And the second half is this interactive piece where the audience is invited to start speaking to what the themes in the play are being brought up. And that was really inspirational to me, because it was partly play, but it was also partly an opportunity to hear the audience's voice. And so as we've been moving forward and exploring, we've been trying to really find ways to hear from our patrons and inviting them we did an online, a virtual gala this year. And as part of the program, we pulled quotes from past productions and from really important feminist quotes that I thought really spoke to who Rivendell is as an organization. And I invited participants, audience members, I had mailed them to them ahead of time. There was a moment where everybody got to speak, and it was incredibly moving for me to get to revisit productions from 20 years ago or 15 years ago, but heard through the audience's perspective. And I think it reminded us of how transformational those plays can be and how affecting they can be, particularly when you're hearing it coming back through a patron and not from a performer. And I've been trying to bring that into the work that we're doing moving forward and allowing for opportunities for the audience to engage back with us. Over the holidays, I wanted to spend some time not making an ask for donations. And instead, we focused on posting videos about different moments that our community at Rivendell have found joy at Rivendell. And we did the 12 Days of Christmas, but we did the 12 Days of Joy at Rivendell. And we had patrons talking about stories or moments, and actors and directors and designers, some from the ensemble, some not. And again, I think getting to hear their voices and giving them a chance to express what they were missing at this moment, and also moments from our past that have been moving, was really wonderful. So I think that's it.
That's really beautiful. I love that. Thank you. Marky, what have you and Raven been up to engage with your audience and your community?
Yeah, we've been really trying to lean into our building, which we were really lucky to own. So we were able to commission this really beautiful mural that is on now the north side of our building on Granville. And we worked with the Edgewater Chamber to bring some of the art that was created during the Black Lives Matter protest this summer into the windows of our lobby. And it's actually still up in our lobby, even though the exhibit has ended, because we really love it. We've tried partnering with mutual aid groups in Edgewater to use our parking lot to do supply drives. We have a workout class that was having like an outdoor socially distanced like dance class in our parking lot for a little bit in the fall when the weather was nice. And so trying to think of ways, if we can't bring people into our building, how can we use our building as a resource and also sort of be pushing that art out into the community in the times when it just is not, unfortunately, safe for anyone to really be in and being in community together.
That's fascinating. I love that. I know that certainly at Steep and at the Chamber, we have been honing a wide range of new skills and getting better at a lot of things we never thought we'd do before. Have you found there were any new skills or new ways of thinking about your work that you've discovered this year? Lisa, what have you been up to?
Yeah, I've definitely gotten better at coding, which is a thing that if I would have told my 13-year-old self, Lisa, you're going to be so into coding, she would have been like, wow, okay, sure. But it's just given me a lot more like tangible knowledge on the technology side, which I feel is just so helpful, because as we move ever more into the future of technology, there's so much more to learn. So that has really probably been my greatest takeaway from being at home so much during this. But I think also like just finding ways to like reach out to our base in ways that aren't asking for donations or for money or things like that. Like we did a postcard exchange where we had a bunch of our company members just write like personal postcards to send out to our subscribers, not asking for money or anything, just a picture of one of our shows where two females are hugging, and I just felt like it was a very visual representation of like, we're here, we love you, we hope you're doing okay. And just like sending those vibes out into the world, and like really taking the time to check on people around you and make sure that everyone is like emotionally in a place that's positive,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Julianne, have you picked up any new skills over the past several months?
Yeah, first I just want to jump off what Lisa just said. I think this has really been a time where we've reconfigured how we relate to our audiences by necessity, but also just kind of in terms of not only the pandemic, but the Black Lives Matter movement has just really changed, I think, how all of us are seeing the world in terms of how we need to take care of people. And I just want to echo sort of what Tara was saying and Lisa about, not just reaching out to audiences and asking for things, but thinking about our audiences in terms of what do they most need right now. And so like marketing emails have been really different this year. We're not selling things as much as we're writing emails to everyone on our list, checking in, trying to provide comfort in ways that, I hadn't really thought of us as relating to our audiences in that way. And then, in terms of new skills, we talked a lot just again about like what audiences most need right now. And even though we're all enjoying each other in the Zoom, I think we can all agree that everyone's suffering from a bit of Zoom fatigue at this point. So we looked at ways to not create video to get audiences off their screen. And we actually just launched our podcast. I'm really excited about it. We used to do these live talk shows, which were amazing, and that they took place in unconventional spaces, like a restaurant's party room. Audiences would eat, drink, get to know each other. We'd have short, quirky performances, discussions around a topical theme. So we've transferred these now into a podcast that includes both performances as well as discussions. Our theme as an organization for this spring is reimagining utopia. So the podcast, the entire 5 episodes are all curated around the theme reimagining utopia. And then we have sub themes like within that. So our trailer is live now. March 3rd is the first episode with the Neo-Futurist Theater Company and also a music artist, Jovan Landry.
How exciting. What other alternative programming, sort of new innovative ways to work have your theaters found? Marky, is Raven up to anything new these days?
Most of what I sort of said about our space has been the things that we've been doing, but we also, in sort of the very beginning of the pandemic, we did a podcast series that was sort of highlighting stories about human connection from our audience that I found really beautiful and moving. And one of the things I loved that we did in August was we did a series just highlighting the history of some local businesses in Edgewater. And so I think we did Brown Elephant and Hop Leaf and Gethsemane, and then the history of Raven, which used to be a grocery store. And that was just I really loved the fact that we sort of knew that we weren't able to bring people in and do theater. So we thought about, how can we use our time to sort of highlight our community around us and build those community ties. And I hope that in the future, we don't lose any of that we've been doing because it's so important to continue to do. And I think we can, once we get into the hamster wheel of producing, we can sort of get a little insular focused. And so keeping that sort of broad community reach, I think, is something that I'm looking forward to continuing.
That's really exciting. Lisa, do you want to mention anything about the education work that Steep has started doing this year?
Yeah, so we've done playwriting and directing workshops this year that have been, I think the first directing workshop we did was actually in the space, right? Way back when. But since then, they've all been on Zoom. But I mean, it's been very fun and great to like have a space for people to come and like feel creative and still be able to collaborate with each other, even though it's not like a physical space. We also did, for anyone that doesn't know, we don't have a building anymore right now. We're currently in the process of looking for a new one, but we had quite a few focus groups as well, where we pulled artists and subscribers and people who have worked with Steep to kind of poll and get their opinions and ideas about what they like about the old Steep space and what they'd like to see in a new space. And a lot of the consensus was just that people love the space we cultivate, and that idea of family, like and just being in like a Zoom filled with all those people, almost in some ways feels like you're in the lobby, or feels like you're in a creative space when you're just like having a talk with other like-minded people. So that has definitely been super awesome.
Thank you. You mentioned collaboration. I'm curious, we as an industry collaborate in the room together and have for thousands of years. And I'm curious if your organizations have found ways to collaborate and stay organized in this remote world. Rinska, what have you been up to?
Well, at Red Twist, we've been doing a lot of internal organizing and just thinking and processing. Um, Before even the Black Lives Matter movement came, I know that Charlie, our artistic director, really wanted to diversify our company. And the Black Lives Matter movement just like propelled that even more, that it just more than ever, we need to have harder and larger conversations. And we felt that the best way for us to do that was to start with our company. And so actually, my original title was co-deputy resolution officer, something like that. And we were like, what the hell does that mean? And so in process, we started asking ourselves, like, what do we want our theater company to look like? And it turned into us actually being Red Twist accountability team, because we realized that we need to change more than just our appearances, more than just our ensemble. We need to look at our procedures, everything. So literally, we have completely took all our paperwork from stage management to producer to just everything, and we're looking over everything with a magnifying glass, and not even with just Black Lives Matter and just in general, like people of color, but also how to make someone feel comfortable about sexual scenes, or if they feel sexually assaulted or not assaulted, harassed. But also just making sure that we're actively learning and we're not just saying, this is my idea. And I think it's like the best idea ever, that we're like actively learning from others who are qualified in this. And so Charlie has been really great, and my other partner, Devin, between the three of us, and now we're starting to incorporate more staff into this, but we're going to different type of accountability training. Like, how can we help someone feel comfortable to speak up in a room per their personality? Because not everyone's going to, like, I'm very loud. So if I don't, if I don't feel like something is working, I'm like, hello, something's not working, but that doesn't work for everybody. So learning how to give power to everyone in whatever stage they're at, and knowing that they do have power. So, I mean, I'm so excited to hear what everyone else is doing with other companies, but we meet every Sunday and we talk about how we can just be better. So we've been doing this for the past like 6 something months. And that's what we're doing right now. I feel like before we can bring in other companies and do other wonderful things that y'all are doing with the community, the hard truth is Red Twist is a predominantly white theater company. And they have filled such a wonderful void of ageism, because I feel like there's a lot of shows that don't get to show all different age ranges. And I feel like Red Twist does that so well. But now we're asking ourselves, like, what other stories can we relate to our audience and bring that in, and just connect more. So right now we're doing a lot of soul searching and learning how to feel comfortable in a room and hold space. I mean, I have to say, even as a person of color myself, I'm learning that I have allowed myself to feel to feel uncomfortable with other people being uncomfortable, and I am now learning to feel comfortable that other people need to be uncomfortable. And so just getting the entire team on that page, and that it's okay because it's a conversation. So in a long-winded answer, that's where Red Twist is at right now, and specifically with my job title.
I love all of that.
I just wanted to piggyback on that and say, I think the saddest thing would be is we emerge from this year, 2 years, whatever it's going to be, and everyone just goes back to the way things were. This has got to be a time to dig deep into our core values, to change how we relate to our audiences, how we relate to artists, how we can be better as an organization. And, not just in terms of the Black Lives Matter movement, but also aesthetically too. Like, are we creating work that's most necessary and needed and creative right now? And to just really examine our best practices in terms of equity and inclusion, but also our best practices in terms of making art. Are we relevant right now is a big question.
Yes.
And I just don't want to see all of us exit and be like, well, that fucked. Now we're just going to go back and do exactly what we've been doing. Let's reimagine the form, and in terms of access, the podcast, for example, and other programming that people are doing, like people who live in other countries, other cities, on the other side of town, who are disabled, like all of the sudden have a renewed access. And, that's really exciting. But I think we also just need to recognize that this all kind of sucks, right?
Yes, that it sucks. And also that in the silver lining of all of this, we have the opportunity to really examine what type of art we want to do and what stories we feel like need to be pushed in the forefront. Because even with, Red Twist, it started off with like, okay, people of color, we need to have more representation. And then honestly, like, that's why it became an accountability team, because then we were like, actually, no, we need to have more LGBT stories. We need to have more trans stories. We need to have more disability. Like there's a vault, and now Pandora's box in a positive way has been opened. And like, we really need to start asking these harder questions. And I agree with you. I feel like, me personally, I'm so livid and mad that I did not realize how complacent I've been and that I have allowed myself to be, that I personally will feel more empowered to hold my community accountable, and I will not go back. And I can tell, at least like with this group right here, we will not let that happen. And hopefully it will be like the domino effect to just keep going.
Can I just add in on that? And I'm going to jump forward, Kate, to the personal sources of inspiration, because it really is tied into what everyone is saying right now, which is within this really sucky year. And you guys, it's been a full year now. We're sitting at a year, and there has been so many opportunities for us as artists and for us as women and for us as citizens to really look inwards to what Julianne's talking about and Rinska's talking about, at examining our core values and really shifting our organizations. And I know we're doing a lot of that work at Rivendell. We were in the middle of launching a 5-year strategic plan when the shelter in place came, and we decided to move forward with that. And we also had been embarking on an EDI crusade to how to make Rivendell a non-racist organization. But the thing that has been most inspiring to me is to looking around within the theater community in Chicago and having all these colleagues who are working on the same things, sharing resources, sharing ideas, always taking the call, always spending the time to talk about the challenges we're each facing, holding each other accountable in a really beautiful way. I've always known that the Chicago theater community is something outrageously special, but this year has really proved it once again.
Yes, to that. You all are my inspiration and my hope for the future. And it's such a joy to have important, hard conversations with brilliant, inspirational people on a regular basis. What other sources of inspiration and motivation are you finding? Anne, what's keeping you moving?
Well, I agree with the other speakers. It's been wonderful to see the community as a whole kind of embrace a lot of these ideas. I found it very heartening to know that the community, I feel the theater and arts community in Chicago really wasn't caught flat-footed on a lot of these things. These were ideas that had already been starting to be discussed. They were thoughts that were starting to form. I think that made it so much easier for folks to feel comfortable jumping in and supporting the protests, having the conversations, pushing some of the boundaries on some things that just a lot of people were feeling uncomfortable about. And I do feel like the arts community as a whole was very much out front and kind of pulling folks along as a general manner. And I found that hugely inspirational, and it was a wonderful example, and it did show how important the arts are within communities. I think that we have a way of speaking that can be more supportive and educational rather than preachy and whiny about certain things. So I think it's just a much more welcoming environment to have hard conversations. So I thought that was just a really, really valuable part of this very awful experience.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Before we start to wrap up, is there anything else anyone wants to add? Anyone on anyone's mind that, yeah, Lisa Troy.
I just wanted to say something that's really been on my mind and kind of pushing me forward and inspiring me has been just the idea of community and how do we best serve our community. There's a picture in my mind of a very specific, I think, Sunday afternoon at Steep when it's between the matinee and before the show in the boxcar, and we had food trucks out in the middle of August, and there's just people sitting on the sidewalk, people at the coffee shop, there's dogs out, there's people playing cornhole on the corner, and there's just this sense of liveliness and all the people around, and you can just be out there and enjoy the community of it all. And something about that idea has really been driving me to how do we find that again, in this time where we can't really be around other people, how do we find that connection, Yes. So I just feel that's something super important, and I feel the more we focus on that, because Chicago's such a diverse city, and look at all of us strong independent women sitting on this panel who are all a part of such amazing theater companies, and all of us being able to come together and share these ideals and be a strong force not only in our communities but in Chicago says something really, I think.
That's beautiful. That image makes me want to cry too. And we will be back there one day. Yeah, thank you for that. As we round out our conversation, I wonder if we might go around and I'll call on folks one at a time to talk about how anyone listening to this discussion can get more involved in your work if they're inspired to do so. Why don't we start with Marky?
First, Lisa, thank you for that image. That is, I can't wait until we can get back to that. And I also want to echo that I find my inspiration in this room and in every sort of room that I've been in of people having these types of conversations. It keeps, I think, you feel very isolated right now, and it's stuff like this that makes me feel like I'm not alone. So thank you. If you want to support Raven, you can donate. And we hope that we're going to be able to do some work in our parking lot this summer, if the weather and the vaccine protocols cooperate. So we'll let everyone know as soon as we know more about that. But we so look forward to seeing our audience back, and wish you all the best.
Thank you. Anne, how can folks get more involved in Edge Theater?
Well, we have a lot of different artistic groups that come and go through our spaces that we would love folks to know more about. So checking our website or our social media stuff, we try to keep information about the different groups that frequent the Edge, and we're super happy to share their stories and information. So that's probably the best way to keep track of what we're up to.
Fantastic. Tara, how can folks get involved in Rivendell?
So we are doing a lot of play development work at Rivendell right now. We've been doing a series of resumed readings, and we just finished a workshop on a new play called Ant Play. We're going to be doing some public readings of that in a couple of months, and we're also going to be workshopping the first show that we're going to open with once we're able to resume in the theater. So the best way to stay involved with Rivendell is to join our mailing list. We do a series of e-blasts, and I think a great way to also stay tuned in other events that are happening is, I know Rivendell has been doing this and other theater companies have been doing it as well, which is sharing what else is happening in the community besides just what's happening or not happening at Rivendell. So you can visit Rivendell Theater, and that's theater, TRE.org, O-R-G, RIVENDELL.org, and sign up to be on our email list and stay tuned for some public readings and some opportunities to interact with us. We welcome it. Thank you.
Thank you. I feel like we could do a whole panel discussion on theater RE versus theater ER, but that is for another day. Julianne, how can folks get involved in Pivot Arts?
Sure. Pivot Arts, we are an adventurous, multidisciplinary performance organization, so you do not have to spell theater correctly with us. We do dance, theater, hybrid works, and the best way to engage with us is our website, pivotarts.org. And as I said, we just launched our podcast. Yay! So you can subscribe on Apple, Spotify, other major podcasting platforms. And we are reimagining utopia, going back to an amazing communal world and cornhole and everything else. Lisa said, yes, please. Yes. We are going to have a performance tour this May, June. So our annual festival, the Pivot Arts Festival, is not happening in the way that it usually does, but we are committed to doing something live and safe. So we have curated about 13 different artists, artistic groups. Many of them are video artists, but you're not going to watch their work on your computer. We are setting up gallery spaces around Edgewater, and you can come see video installations. There'll be very few live performances that we will do for very small groups, almost like a museum tour or a architectural walking tour, where audiences in very small, safe pods with masks will walk through video installations and experience some live works. Fingers crossed, guys. Fingers crossed. Pivotarts.org. Follow us at Pivot Arts. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Rinska, how can folks get involved in Red Twist?
Sign up for our mailing list. Charlie does a really fantastic job in keeping everyone up to date as to what we're doing. And as I said, we're revamping everything. So we should see some cool new social media stuff coming out as well, but you can follow us on Instagram. Yeah.
Great. And Lisa Troy, how can folks get involved in STEEP?
Yeah, so I mean, you can follow us on our social media as well, or you can go to our website, steeptheaterre.com. I'll be updating it. And we also have, if you want to keep your eyes peeled, we're going to be doing a virtual 20th anniversary kind of party. So keep your eyes peeled for that. That'll be coming up in the next couple of months. And then we're also looking for a building. So hopefully, fingers crossed, over the summer, you'll be finding out where our new home is. So yes.
I love it. Thank you. Yeah, our virtual 20th anniversary will be a social media blast blitz with all kinds of ways to engage with the company, and we're really, really excited about it. So it's an odd time to celebrate an anniversary, but we're here for it. So here we are. Thank you all so much for sharing your time and your insights with us today. Your work is truly vital to the community that makes Edgewater an extraordinary neighborhood. And I can't wait to be back in a theater space or in a block party or wherever we find ourselves together again. It'll be a beautiful day. Thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your day and take care.